What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show with me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com, and I'm back with my top bets for the week in the world of mixed martial arts, and it's UFC in Paris this weekend, as we have 5 bets, 4 normal bets and 1 flyer, as almost always, and we'll run you through them in a second. Last week we had a futures podcast, so if you haven't seen that yet, please have a look at it. I looked at 4 upcoming title fights and then 1 outside of that with all plus money bets. So if you haven't seen last week's show, feel free to check that out. It's here on Sherdog.com or on our YouTube. The week before, I'm kind of glad we had a couple of weeks off there, because it was the first terrible week of the year. Every other week we've kind of hit at least 1, usually 2 or 3, sometimes all of them. But we missed on every single one. We had the PFL, we 3 bets from PFL, 3 bets from UFC, and none of them hit, unfortunately. Dalton Rosta lost, Sullivan Cauley lost, Romanov lost in the PFL, and in the UFC, Johnny Walker won. I didn't have that. I had the under in the heavyweight fight, which is, I'm changing up my tack this week, and I had Nuraji to win by submission. Obviously, it was a bit of a weird ending in that one, where it was an illegal knee, and then could have been a no contest or a DQ, kept going and ended up being a TKO. So that was a big flyer. That was probably the best bet of the week. That almost was a submission at one stage, but didn't end up being that. So that's in ancient history 2 weeks ago. Let's look into the future, and let's get straight into our bets here for the week. Honestly, there's a lot of different bets I thought about this week. I've actually kind of avoided the main event, but I'll give you a little bit of a bet for the main event at the end. But I'm going to start off with Mauricio Ruffy, and he's fighting Benoit Saint-Denis, and he's minus 180 to win that fight. Honestly, I was looking at this price for the last couple of days, and waiting for the props and stuff to come out, and I was like, is this bet going to change? Like, is this going to stay the way it is? Because and people who listen to this show will know this, I have a bit of a, whatever the opposite of a soft spot is for Benoit Saint-Denis. Every time he's fighting, I'm betting against him. I think we all made good money on Poirier in that fight. And I think this one could be a very, very similar thing. Like, the price, as I said, minus 180. Some places is a little bit higher. It's crazy to think he started off, just checking here now again, as a minus. He was at one stage, he was minus 160, but this has gone in and out. Started off at minus 237, went all the way into minus 160, minus 195, and is now around the minus 200 mark, but you can get him at minus 180 in one betting place anyway, and that's what I'm going for. To me, Ruffy is the perfect place for an MMA fighter to be at their best. He's 13 fights in, he's 12-1, he's 29 years of age, he's fought guys, his last fight against Bobby Green, he fought even guys like Jamie Malarkey, good guys on the way up, aside from that, maybe not the biggest of names, but I think he's a good stock, and he's done good things, and he has won fights in devastating fashion, most of them, but he's also kind of gone to a decision in the UFC in his second last fight, and I don't think that's the worst thing in the world to happen. You can see his talent. He's fighting in the Fighting Nerds as well, which is the, you could argue, the informed gym in the world, and his style, his power, he just looks so good. And Saint-Denis, the other side of it, then, you could say a similar thing for him. He's 29 years of age. He's, 18 fights into his career. Not too far off. But I actually think, and this is a weird thing to say, because you could argue maybe Ruffy come up the same way, kind of knocking loads of lads out and everything. When Ruffy does it, I think, like, oh, this is real, this could keep going. Can his style, when he gets to the very, very top, be kind of retrofitted, I suppose, over 3 rounds, 5 rounds, wherever it might be? I will see on that, right? That's not a discussion for this fight. With Saint-Denis, I thought to myself, there's no way when he gets to, let's say, a higher level, that he's going to be able to win. Like the Poirier fight, the Hinano Moicano fight, I just knew it. And he bounced back and he got a good win in his last fight. But look, he picked up some good wins before. Frivola, Moises, Bonfim, look at him here in Sherdog. Definitely some good wins in there. But I think Ruffy, and like it's, where is the fall off? Where's he gonna, where's that pitfall gonna come for him? And Moicano beating him, I think, is a good judge of that. Who's better, Ruffy or Moicano? I would say Mauricio Ruffy. I think he's, at this stage of his career, he's a better fighter. I think Moicano, again, another guy who has his issues as a fighter. I think Ruffy is just a better all-around striker than Saint-Denis. I don't think Saint-Denis is going to pick him up and take him down and put him on the ground and beat him up there. I think this is a real good bet. Even at minus 200, I think it's a real good bet. I think this has Ruffy written all over. I know it's in Saint-Denis' home country and everything like that, but yeah, I like Ruffy an awful lot in this fight, and he's the first bet of the week. I'm throwing in for the next three. I'm throwing in some props. One I really like, and I'm kind of shocked it is this price, is Paul Craig and Modestas Bukauskas under 1.5 rounds at plus 112. I think this is the sort of fight that, like, and I'm going to say the opposite for a fight in a second, but both of these guys at times play kind of a waiting game. Bukauskas being the kind of the more technical striker with power obviously behind it, and then Craig kind of waiting for someone to make a mistake so he can get their submission. But I actually think Bukauskas and Craig, both of them being from the UK, will know each other an awful lot. It isn't one of those things where I think Bukauskas, or maybe an American fighter or an Australian fighter, might actually fear Craig's game. I don't think Bukauskas will. I don't think he will fear his game at all. And therefore, I think he'll actually open up in this fight. Now, him opening up in this fight could lead to him getting submitted, which would satisfy our bet as well. But I really think Bukauskas will make really tough work, or light work even, of Paul Craig. Like, this fight reminds me a little bit of the Johnny Walker fight. Like, I predicted that fight, almost exactly, standing hammer fist, I think I said, and that's exactly what it was. Like, you just know that the second Craig goes in and actually tries to go to the ground with someone or tries to drag a leg of someone like Johnny Walker, he's just going to hammer fist the head off him. And I think the same thing with Bukauskas. I think Bukauskas has way too much power. I was looking at the first round Bukauskas knockout and things like that, maybe for a flyer, but I think this was the best price, and this was honestly, I think this is the best bet of the week for me. I think Bukauskas will be a lot better than him. I think he'll win the fight. He's a minus 345 favorite to win the fight. Craig is plus 300 best price, and that tells you an awful lot. So, like, you look at Bukauskas' record, he has gone to 6 decisions in his career, but 18 of his fights have finished inside distance. Paul Craig, on the other side of it, then has never won a decision. He's 1 draw and 2 decision losses. But other than that, 24 fights have finished inside the distance. That's a whole lot. And, so obviously some of Craig's have been later, so they wouldn't satisfy the round and a half here. But obviously some of them have been early as well. You could say the same for Bukauskas. I think the start of his UFC career and his Cage Warriors career, he was getting a lot of early finishes. And, when the level change, maybe they haven't come as much. But I think the matchup here, for me, is the reason I'm going for this. And that's bet number 2 of the week. Craig versus Bukauskas under a round and a half at plus 112. The next bet is for the fight to go to decision, and that's Losene Keita against Patricio Pitbull. I absolutely love this fight. Anyone here knows I've been obviously covering Octagon for a long time, bringing Brian on to do previews with me and stuff, and we've covered, probably at least the last 3 of Keita's fights, and obviously he had Ari in the fight before that, the former Cage Warrior champion. I have a great time for his own. I watched that fight, and I've been watching him for a very, very long time. And just on the bet first rather than him, I suppose, look, Keita is a finisher. There's no doubt about that. 10 knockouts in his 16 wins. He's 1 loss. And that was inside the distance as well. He got knocked out in the first round. It was a leg injury, but there you go. But the other 6 of his fights all went to decision. I know he went with Mateusz Legarski a couple of fights ago, and with the aforementioned Agi Sardari to a decision as well. You look at Patricio, like he's had an awful lot of fights. It's almost exactly, you know, his wins 12, 12 and 13, 12 knockouts, 12 submissions, 13 decisions. Gone to 5 decisions as well in losses. So what's that, 18 decisions as a fighter. His last 2 in a row both went to a decision. You know, he had a couple of fights. The Jeremy Kennedy one was, and the Suzuki one, obviously on short notice. But there was something like, 4 or 5 fights before that, all went to a decision as well, against the likes of Barrocks and AJ McKee and Sergio Pettis, who I was talking to today. Interview up on Sherdog.com now. Check that out. And honestly, the way Losene Keita fights and the way Patricio Pitbull fights, I actually think this will be a really nice technical matchup with 1 or 2 big shots, and a little bit maybe like the last Patricio fight against Delija. But I don't think Delija maybe had the speed at times, although we saw it at the end of the third, or the start of the third, wasn't it? To go at Patricio at this stage of his career, whereas Keita will, and he's a very good technical striker who will have to fight a little bit differently against Patricio, I think. And that's why I think it'll go a little bit longer. I think Patricio's a really, really, really tough out. He's only been finished 3 times in 45 fights. Very, very tough to finish him. The straight up betting odds on this fight, Keita's a big favourite, over -200 some places, plus 176 for Patricio. I was thinking about that. I really do think this is going to be a very, very close fight. That's how I went for the fight to go to a decision. So that's bet number 3 of the week. -174. It's not the biggest price in the world, but this fight to go to a decision. I'm picking the next fight to go to a decision too. As I said earlier, once bitten, twice shy. Maybe not. I'm going for the heavyweights to go to a decision here. Tybura versus Ante Delija. Again, Ante Delija, a guy I've covered an awful lot over the last few years, covering all the PFL cards, obviously, and been very, very, very impressed with him. You know, 35 years of age, good age for the heavyweights, 31 fights into his career, has fought some really good guys, you know, fought and beaten a lot of good guys like Mateusz Scheffel, Hina Fehea, Dennis Goltsov and more as well. You know, been in there with guys like Bruno Capoloza, lost him a couple of times, and Moldavsky as well. And you look at the record for a heavyweight now. Both of these guys, 8 decisions in his career for Ante Delija. Not a whole lot considering how many fights he has had, but he went to decision in 2 of his last 5 or 6 fights. Tybura on the other side of it, then he has had 13 decisions in his 36 fight career. So that's an awful lot. 37% of his wins have been by decision. 33% of his losses have been by decision. His last fight went to decision. He went to decision with Yilnov. And one other point I wanted to make on this as well. I think the Mick Parkin fight the last time for Tybura. So Ante Delija, I'm pretty sure, I'm open to correction this, but he's actually training with Mick Parkin, Tom Aspinall, Modestas Bukauskas as well, and all those guys, James Webb, the Cage Warriors, light heavyweight champion, former middleweight champion. Sometimes, you know, and he'll know him inside out. I'm sure Mick Parkin will have talked him through the fight, like what he's like. Sometimes there can be a little bit of a paralysis by analysis and that in a fight where, as we've just gone through the stats here, maybe Ante Delija is the more likely guy to get the fight finished. Maybe that'll draw it back a little bit. And I just think as well, like Tybura is one of these guys, you know, he can blow hot and cold sometimes. I thought against Spivak, I thought he was going to win, ended up losing. I thought Denise might be a tough matchup for him. I thought that might be the latter part of his career. Ended up winning, and the same against Mick Parkin. He could end up winning this fight as well. He really, really could. The straight up bet lines are almost exactly the same. This is a pick'em fight between Delija and Tybura, and I kind of feel the same way. I think it's going to go long. I think it's going to be a good fight. I think it's going to be a good technical heavyweight fight, to be honest. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But I like the decision here, plus 117. Right, final bet of the week. I'm going for the Flier, and I've done this a few times, and it's worked once or twice. And it hasn't. So I'm going for the Irish double here. The plus 710 double of Rhys McKee and Shauna Bannon. Reese McKee plus 116, Shauna Bannon plus 275. Look, you can call me a little bit biased. This is the Flier, so we're throwing it out there. It's plus 707 to 1. If you have a 5 you never want to see again, you know. I'm definitely more confident in the Reese bet than I am in the Shauna one. Just on Reese first. Like, Reese McKee has been an unbelievable fighter outside of the UFC and struggled really badly, you know, tough matchups in the UFC. Was 0-4, got a last chance, and what a brilliant performance last time on a fun fight with Daniel Frunza, who was stopped, you know, doctor stoppage after the first round. And he's been put in here. He's supposed to fight someone else. That fight fell through, and on short notice, Alex Sola, the Aries champion, is moving up in weight to welterweight to fight Reese McKee. Now, I've watched a bit of Sola in the last couple of weeks, and this guy's a really good fighter, really, really well rounded. But his biggest issue is he takes shots. One of his, I think it was the aim of a fight that was actually a decision, win all 5 rounds, but he got knocked down really hard in the first round of that. And if he does that against Reese McKee, I think it's going to be really, really tough. So I think Reese is a live dog in that. And Sean on the other side of it, then, I think that Sam Hughes is, you know, a good fighter, not a great fighter. I think if Shauna ups her game a little bit, which she should, she's only 8 fights into her career, I think, you know, this fight, the next fight, the fight after, she has the beating of someone like Sam Hughes. Is she there yet? I don't know, and that's why the price is so big. But are you willing to take a 7-1 bet? There you go. So that's the Flier of the week. In the main event, quickly before I go, if I was pushed to give a pick, I'm gonna, even though I like Carvalho, I'm gonna go for Imavov at a plus 115. So just to recap the picks, Ruffy minus 180, plus 112 for the under a round and a half in Craig Bukauskas. I like Pitbull and Keita to go decision at minus 174. Tybura and Delija to go decision as well at plus 117. And the parlay for the Flier of the week, McKee and Bannon, the Irish special. All right, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. Please bet responsibly, and we'll see you all next time.